Are you looking for a weaving project that is outside of the box? Well, you've came to the right place because I have the project for you. Hi, I'm Kara with DIY on the House. If you're new to our channel, you are in the right place because I love weaving and we have a ton of weaving videos for you. Today's weaving project truly thinks outside of the box. It uses paracord and twine, and I have to say is probably one of the most durable, unique rugs that we've made yet. And I am all about helping people, so if you have any questions, please put them in the comments down below because I will personally answer them for you. The loom I'm going to use for this rug is approximately 18 inches by 33 inches. We have a full video on how you can make this loom. The link is down below, or you can just click on our channel and see all the other videos we have on different weaving projects. But the cool thing about this loom is you need to have these rods on the edge of the loom. You go down through these eyes, and this will keep your rug nice and straight and nice and square. You don't need to have these rods out right now because we're going to warp it first. You'll need these when you start weaving your rows. So I'm going to set those aside, and we're going to go ahead and warp. For the warp on this rug, I am just going to use 3-ply jute, it says. It's just, I have quite a stack of different ropes, and this one was the thickest. I had initially thought of using clothesline or paracord, but the distance is so long, and to have it to be a continuous warp, it wasn't going to be cost effective to do that. So I'm going to use jute. So to start, you need to tie a knot in this end, creating a loop to go over your first nail. So we have a loop, and now you just go back and forth to each nail, keeping it nice and tight, and push them down as you go. When you're building the loom, the nails are about a 1/2 inch apart. It doesn't matter if you have even number or odd number of nails. You just need to have the same amount of nails on this end as you have on that end. So I'm going to go ahead and warp across to the end here. I'm almost to the end. And you finish it off just the same way you started by tying a knot and a loop. So we're down here. And you just tie this nice and tight. I do have trouble, I admit. This is a knot that I am just not very good at keeping tight, so I guarantee it slips every time I do it. But, oh, I think I made it that time. So the warping is done. I like to have a continuous medium. I don't want to stop and tie knots in this. So when you're deciding what material to use for your warp, count your number of nails. And this one has 33 nails. Each one is going to take 6 feet of material. So down and back up is 6 feet times the 33. So you need to get, so that you can have tail and room to spare, you need to start with a ball that is about 200 feet or so to do your warping. The material that we're going to weave this rug with is really whatever you can find. I have been just picking up different balls of stuff for the last several weeks every time I've been to Walmart, the craft store, the hardware store. So here's some of the labels. There's cotton twine, there's jute twine, there's polished hemp, there's 3-ply twine. So really anything goes. And I just have a variety of that. Along with weaving this, I am also weaving with paracord. So the warp fabric is the jute, which I used a heavier jute on the warp. The weaving, one side of it is going to be the paracord. The other side is going to be a variety of different kinds of string. I have never worked with paracord before, so in hindsight, I would have done a better job shopping for this. I see that Hobby Lobby has it, Amazon has it, this I got at Home Depot. So at the end of the video, I will give you a quantity of how much of the paracord and of the rope that you will need to weave this rug. Again, this rug is about 18 inches by 33 inches. So I have been busy weaving, testing things out. So this is the rug I have going so far. Going back and forth, we have the paracord mixed with a different kind of rope. And these rows are created because each one I cut about 3 yards of each as I'm weaving, so that when one rope ends, I join in another rope, and so there I'm just picking a random pattern. I just wanted to give you a visual of where we are going. So this is what I am working on. Typically on a rug, I will weave all the way down to the end, and then I will finish it off down on the nails on the other end. On this rug, I am going to weave from the top and the bottom and meet in the center, and I think it's going to work real well. I've done that a couple times on other rugs, so we're going to do that here on this one. So I have the rods here. I'm just going to push, and now the rods are back up on the end. So you can see this is the warp. It's the twine is still there. It's still nice and tight. I just have the weaving on this end. What I'm choosing to do is weave with 2 different kinds of rope. As I said, one is a paracord and one is another one of my choice. You can do 2 paracords, you can do 2 twines, but to get started, I'm going to tie a knot, and this is going to be kind of a bulky knot because we're tying it with paracord. From now on, I'll show you how you join paracord by melting it. And I'm going to cut about 3 yards of each one, and just an easy way to measure it, the end of your finger to the tip of your nose is approximately 1 yard. So as I'm sitting and working, I just take the string and measure from the length of my arm to my nose 3 times and cut the rope then. Just as a preference, I do not like my splices and my knots to end at the exact same spot for both different kinds of rope. So I'm going to cut one and go a little bit further and cut the other, just so you can stagger your splicing. I do not want to have this knot on the edge of my rug, so I am going to start a little bit in. So here we're going to take one rope here, and we are going to pull it underneath the nail of your first warp. So you are splitting the first warp, and you're going to bring forward your rope. And like I said, I don't want that knot there. I want it more over here. So I'm going to take the end of my paracord, and I am going to insert it into the same warp. So here we have the warp coming up. I'm taking my paracord and I'm going to put it in that same warp and bring it up your second one. So this first part here is a little messy just because we need to get that knot, but now we're already getting ready to rock and roll, so no worries there. So you just start by bringing one rope forward through the warp and the other end of it backwards through the warp. Bring it forward through your second, always splitting your warp underneath the nail. So now I have this rope, which is my weaving fabric. I am going to, this one came out, this one goes in. So it goes in, now it comes out your next warp hole. Now this rope came out, this one needs to go in. While you're back there behind, push it through your next one. This one is getting ready. This came out, this goes in, and then comes out your next one. If you do not go underneath your nails at this point, if you just wove around these 2 here, what would happen is your weaving would just slide off the end. So it's really important to go underneath each nail as you're starting. So this one is out, this one goes in and comes out the next one. This is out, this goes in and comes out your next one. This is out, this is in. So I'm just going to continue and let the camera just watch my hand motion. And always push it, especially on this rug, push this to the top as tight as you can, and every once in a while give your ropes a good pull. So you continue across the rest of your row, and when I get to the end, I'll show you how we go around the rod. I'm thinking now back to how I started this. I needed to make sure, you might have saw that I did it, but to specify, go around the rod when you start this row. So we put the rope on the back side of the rod and came through. Make sure you go around this rod on the beginning of your row. And as you get going, you do not need to pull this string through every single motion. So I've been able to go 3, 4, or 5 stitches before I pull through my paracord. And then I pull through my other rope. Before I get to the end and show you how to do around the rod, I want to double check that everything looks good. Everything is pushed up to the top. All of your warps should be separated by weaving right now. So under each nail there is the gap, and everything on here is looking really good. So just keep it nice and tight. These tails here will get taken care of as we weave back across. So now we're to the end, and you go, this one came out, this one goes in, and it comes through this first hole that you created when you made that knot. And since that came out, this goes in. Now you have both of your cords, the paracord and the rope, are on one on each side of your rod. The one that's on the front goes around to the back and comes in your first hole. The one that's in the back goes around and goes through that first hole, and while you're back there, just pull it through in your next gap. So I'm going to pause here so you can see, when you're weaving, you will have 2 pieces of warp between each of your stitches. So I've came around, went in, and I'm going to bring this back. And so now you're ready to continue. So this came forward through, this one goes back. This comes forward now. This one's forward, and so now the weaving back is really fast because you have already created a gap by having 2 warp strands there. And give it a good pull and tighten it up. One thing that muscle memory just comes into play, and it wasn't until I watched some of my other rug videos to recognize, watch my right hand. It pulls this thread up out of the way, and then this one goes up, and then this one goes up. So every time I'm grabbing one, I am pulling it to the ceiling, and that gives it this nice rhythm of rotation around the cords, and it just makes a really good look. So you just pull your right one to the sky, to the ceiling, and that will create this nice rhythm of how the stitches look. Okay, these are the tails that we need to include in your weaving. So just pull your tail across, and we continue weaving just so that those can stay nice and secure. Okay, I'll go around this rod one more time. So that's going to get pulled in there. Give these a good nice pull. So this one came out, this one goes in, and now you have one on each side of your rod. The one in the back comes around and in and back out. This one was on the front of it. It goes around and comes out. So now you have the beginnings of another row. And as you get to these tails, you're going to include them in one more time. Going back the other way, it's my left hand that goes to the sky and comes down over. There's my left goes up, left goes up, left goes up. So it just creates a nice even stitch. I'm coming close to where I want to splice the paracord. The cool thing with paracord is you can melt them together to splice it. So you take your two ends and you give it, both of them get a nice clean edge, and you will need some sort of flame. So a clicker would be great, and some sort of water. I'm using a spray bottle because I didn't want to go back and forth to the sink. So, or you could have a little bowl of water that you put your fingers in. So you just take your clicker and you get the ends really hot. I have been burnt as a kid from these, and so maybe that's how come I never played with paracord. But so this stuff does get pretty hot. So just melt them really nice until it kind of starts making a little bubble on the end there. And then you stick them together end for end. You really smush it in there. Smush them together. And when you get it, you think you have a nice good bond. It feels like it's secure. Just get it wet a little and continue massaging it. It's still warm, but it's not burning my fingers. And just give it nice pressure. And when it fully cools down, you can test to make sure if it worked. I have about an 80% success rate after I tug it. A couple times it did come apart. So I think we're good there. Yep, it's nice and cool. And it's tight. So now you can continue with that one. And I'm about ready to join another rope on the other weaving side. So again, I had cut 3 yards of the paracord, and that just seems to be a manageable length. There's no right or wrong on that. Okay, so here we are to the end of this one, and I am going to join it with the hemp cord. So I'm going to cut about 3 yards of this. And this one, since they're not super bulky, I just wrap them around, give it a nice, at least 1.5 to 2 inch tail, and pull the knot as small as you can make it. And continue weaving these tails just like as before. When you come back around, you're going to catch those in your weaving. One thing that is important on this pattern especially, it has definite defined rows, and so you don't want your rows to be angled and everything. As you get weaving, you can just take another piece of rope and measure from the bottom of your nail, and okay, so that's how far that weaving is, and you put it here, and you make sure that that weaving, that row is the same. I only have 4 rows here, so there's not much variance. But when you get down here and you test that, okay, the row ends there, and you go over to test this side and it might be up there, work hard and try to keep your rows as even as possible. But this is just a fast way to do a measurement. So I will continue weaving. When I meet to my weaving from down below, there's really going to be no difference. There's nothing special. I'm just going to weave back and forth. These ropes from this side will join up with the ropes from this side, and so when I get there, I will turn back on the camera and we'll show you how we finish it up and take it off of the loom. I am on the last row finally. This has been a very time-consuming rug, but I have to say worth every minute of it. I just am super excited. So I wanted to turn the camera back on and show you. I have went down this direction and come up this direction, and I'm meeting in the middle. So the last, I would have to say the last inch, I'm not going to deny, it's just more time consuming because this is super tight right now. So continue the same twisting motion. So you're going to just have to do it a little bit more tedious. I use a crochet hook, reaching from the back and then reaching from the front and pulling it through. And we're going to continue over to where my last row was. So what I mean by keeping the twisting motion, all of these, remember my hand going up and making it go like that rhythm. Now you do the same thing and keep your pattern. So now this goes under. To give it that twisted look. Okay, this white was from the previous stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue weaving the white this direction and tie it off over here instead of trying to tie it to the black. I'm going to continue just a few stitches so that we can make sure it's nice and secure. Okay, so I have a loop here. I'm just going to go ahead and tie my knot in that, pulling it tight. So I'll go back at the end and cut off the tails. All of my tails have been fed through the stitching, so now these are just ends that need to be trimmed. And then as far as the black, I'm going to do the same thing the other direction, just continue with the black and tie it off as well. Okay, as I said, I had not worked with paracord, so I fully admit my joining of these cords was definitely not a professional job. So to end this, I am going to pull this one to the back, and this one will come up in the same hole as the other one. So now these two have come out the same hole, and I'm going to give it about an inch cut there, giving it a nice clean end, and try to join them like I have on the other seams. So I'm going to go ahead and melt those pretty heavily. I have my glove on. Oh, this is working good. So it's basically melting to the cord down below. Wow, that's almost seamless. You can't even tell that the splice is there. So got a little bit of water, cool it down. Nice! I did not expect that to go so seamless in there. I actually was prepared to have to make some alterations. So that worked really good. So we are ready to pull it off of the rods. The material ended up being 300 feet of paracord. I had just, maybe 30, 40 feet left over. So you need 300 feet of paracord and you need 90 yards of string. Okay, I have it up on the table and getting ready to pull out the rods. This center separation here, that will go away once the tension is relieved with the rods. These rods are in here really tight, so you're gonna actually have to put some muscle with it, or if you have someone that can hold the loom while you pull. Now you just ease it off of your nails just work it back and forth. Each time I get more impressed with these rugs. This is astounding. It is super, super tight. These ends here aren't going to be a problem. We will put a backing on it anyhow, so those will get covered up and hidden. But the edges are nice and square. And as I had said, yeah, that gap closes really nice. So I will get the material and show you how to do the backing. The backing that we use is just the Easy Liner. It's a foam shelf liner. We actually order it off of Amazon, which I have the link for that down below. And it just gives it some grip because this is going to be super slick. It doesn't have to go all the way to the edge. Just kind of get it a couple inches from each side. So I'm going to cut along here. To attach the backing, I'm going to go ahead and just put a couple pins in it. It is really stiff, so you treat it a little different than you would a fabric rug. On a fabric rug, I pin all the way around, then I go sit in my recliner and I stitch it on. This one, it's a little harder to pin, so I just am going to take crochet thread and just slip stitch it probably a little bit looser than I would a fabric rug just because of the stiffness of the material. But I'm just going to go around and slip stitch this and then I'll show you the finished product. I have the backing sewed on and turning it over. I've trimmed my tails. Looks like there's one there that I missed. I trimmed off my tails and everything seems to be still super nice and tight. This rug here ended up measuring about 17.5 by 32.5. So it's a really, really good size and couldn't have been more thrilled with how it turned out. Okay, I hope you love your rug as much as we love ours. I really, I feel like a broken record. This is truly one of the most durable rugs that we have made yet. So please subscribe to our channel and see all of our other weaving projects. We have a ton planned. And as always, thank you for joining DIY on the House.